Wrestling Travels Lockdown Sessions, brought to you today, as always, by our good friends over in New York City, True Heel Heat Podcast. Follow those guys for all the latest and greatest news. I don't think they sleep. They know more stuff than I ever thought there was to know about pro wrestling. But speaking of pro wrestling, today we're very excited to be joined by Mr. Travis Titan. Travis, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man. Definitely appreciate it. Looking forward to what we have to talk about. So thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. Our pleasure. We're honored to have you. So we wanted to talk, obviously we do the lockdown sessions to talk about what kind of everybody was going on during the lockdown. And we'll get there, but I want to back it all up. Travis, how long have you been in the business?
So coming close to 4 years now. I can't remember exactly when my first match was, to be honest. But I think it might be at 4 years. If not, it's real close to it. So
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because everybody says, I can remember exactly when my first match was, the date, the time, and I'm always like, dude, I can remember who it was against. That's it.
Yeah, I can remember one person. That's because I trained with them. But the other, like 4, I think that were in it, I have no idea. No idea.
That's refreshing to me. Because I always get people that, you should know, and how can you not remember? And I'm like, man, I just don't. So where did you break in at? Where did you train?
So I originally trained at House of Truth with Truth Martini in Michigan. And then I did a little bit of work for IWA Mid-South, and I made my debut in Michigan. Like, I was mainly wrestling for IWA till I went up and got more training at Black and Brave with Seth Rollins and Marek Brave in January of 2017, I believe. So then I went there, did my 3 months, and then decided after the class was over that, I'm going to move here. So I've been in Davenport, Iowa since for the past 3 years or so.
Awesome. So you have to know a few of our former lockdown sessions associates. I'm going to put you on the spot here, remembering names. So how about Manders?
Yep.
Robbie J. Fonts?
Yep.
Robbie J. let you know he's the lead singer for Stuck Mojo?
He did. I do the CrossFit and stuff for Black and Brave. So I'm like a teacher and a coach there. So I know Robbie pretty well. He grew a lot in that time there, and he cracks me up because he just always just calls me sir and coach all the time, and it just told him he doesn't have to do that, but it's whatever. I mean, if it floats his boat, then it's fine. But he's a great guy. But yeah, I mean, he performed one of his with the rape whistle actually during class, and it was fantastic. It was so good. So
I ended up meeting Robbie J up in Montreal last summer on a random road trip we were doing. And I said, I just happened to call this wrestling school. I'm like, hey, I wanted to take my boss, the founder of Wrestling Travel, Lee McAteer, who's never been in the business. I'm like, let's go watch a school train. So I ended up calling Jeff Reset up there and ended up watching them train all in French. It was pretty awesome. And then we met Robbie. And yeah, Robbie's just a nice, respectful kid. But one day I'm going through Twitter and I'm like, man, Robbie J likes a band that I heard of a long time ago called Stuck Mojo. And I find out he's the lead singer. I'm like, it's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So now throughout years, so 4 years, how long was your total from your time you started over in Michigan till you moved over to Black and Brave? How long before you started doing matches regularly?
Pretty much as soon as I got done in Michigan. So I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it was around October of 2016. So it's right around this time I started wrestling, and I would go to IWA every Thursday and do a couple shows in Indiana, Friday, Saturday. And I kept doing that up until I started training at Black and Brave, which was in January. But then I was fortunate that they let me continue to wrestle in companies in Michigan and whatnot. So I've been pretty consistent ever since then. So about like 4 years, I've been doing everything that I can.
Now, I'm up here in Wisconsin, and when I think about Black and Brave, obviously I know where it is, but when I think about Iowa, I'm like, man, these guys out of Iowa are kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but you're not.
Yeah.
You guys, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Chicago's right there. You can't be that far off from St. Louis. So it's actually, and obviously going back to Michigan, it's actually a pretty decent location in the States.
Yeah, because I mean, it's pretty close to Chicago-ish. It's like 3 hours roughly. When I go to Michigan, it's like a little over 6 hours, which isn't awful. Like St. Louis, I think it's like 5.5, 5 hours. And Wisconsin, depending on where you go, is like 3 to 4 hours. So it's not bad at all. I wrestled there a few times. So,
Remember who you wrestled for?
It was MKE
Yeah.
with Silas Young's promotion. A little bit that he had. I did a few stints there. So.
All right, cool. We were just breaking up there for a little bit, but I ended up hearing you.
Yeah.
What so if I go back even further than Travis, who first got you into pro wrestling? Like when you're a kid, when you first turned the TV on, what were you? I was curious to find out who catches people's eye that really got them into pro wrestling.
Like the wrestler, it's like itself, like the guy who stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Oh, man, probably was really into Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and like the matches they had. Like one of the first memories I have was the Halloween Havoc match. That was just unbelievable. But like the first memory I had was Hulk Hogan turning because I was really young, but like I talked to my dad and I was like, man, well, I guess like a kid. It's like, Dad, why are all these people just throwing trash at him? Like, I don't understand why everyone's so angry. Because I'd never seen anything. I was like 4 or like 5, and it's like 4 years old. So like I didn't really grasp everything, and it was just funny. So my dad was like, "Oh, I mean, he just turned on the world." So, and I didn't realize the magnitude of what was going on. But definitely Eddie Guerrero, Macho Man Randy Savage is my favorite in WWF. And then Eddie Guerrero for like WCW, him and Sting too.
Sting's one I get a lot when I ask that question. A lot
Yeah.
of people, but and that just goes to show you too, the Hulk Hogan thing just transcends everything because now I'm much, much older than you are. And the Hogan thing is big for me. But even at the age I was when he finally did turn and join the NWO, that was just as shocking at my age as it was for you as a toddler. It's hard to say that, but that's awesome. And of course, Eddie Guerrero recently was Eddie Guerrero's birthday, so all over social media, people celebrating, and that's, to me, that's awesome to keep that memory alive. And I always find that as I get more used to using social media, there's a lot of things that come up on these wrestlers' birthdays that I'm like, wow, here's a clip that I didn't even realize existed, and here's some cool stuff. Are you pretty active on social media at all?
Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty active. I mean, more so because I kind of have to with wrestling and everything. Before that, I really wasn't, but more so now. Twitter, I feel like I go through phases where I use it a good amount, but now, like, seeing how much wrestling is active on Twitter, like, I really have to get out there and contact people and try to promote as much stuff as I can. So
that's the thing. When I
joined,
active, yeah. These guys, we've got a bit of a delay here. I don't want people to think I'm stepping on your toes on purpose. At least on my end, the delay. Since I started with Wrestling Travel, because they're out of the UK, I mean, that's when I really started using my Twitter, because I've noticed over in the UK and Europe and stuff, Twitter is just it, where we were all, I mean, always using Facebook and stuff. But my question is, during your training, or even now as you are a trainer there at Black and Brave, do the trainers or the school go over like social media as part of your training now? I'm just curious because we would have never went over anything like this.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Like, I mean, it's just basically don't post anything stupid. Don't you don't know any, especially going into it, you don't know anything yet. So like, how are you or who are you to be like, oh, well, that was a shitty match, or, or like what was going on here? Like, you don't really have the right necessarily because you haven't learned the actual like basics and everything in professional wrestling. So like they're huge about like etiquette and everything like that on like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Because if you post something stupid, they're gonna see it and they're gonna punish everyone for it. So
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I
yeah,
found out too. Now that I'm kind of done, I'm actually done. I'm just do a few shots here and there, but I find that I almost get afraid to say stuff on, some of the platforms because, I've just seen people just get crucified
yeah,
for stupid opinions. And I myself, there's certain styles of wrestling that I don't care for, which would be, I'm not a fan of like the death match night or king of the death match or gimmick matches just for the sake of being gimmick matches. But then I go, well, who am I to argue if they're putting butts in the seats? And I try to tell that to the guys that do like it. I'm like, listen, it's not my cup of tea. I hate it. I wish they wouldn't do, like, for example, a night of the death matches. To me, it's always been ingrained in my head that some of these gimmick matches are let's blow off the feud, culminating in the end of this. And now we just have, hey, Steve's going to face Bob in an exploding barbed wire match. And I'm like, why? But they're selling tickets, so I need to keep my fat mouth shut.
yeah. I mean, some people love it. Yeah, I'm not really for it. Like, it's not me, but like you said, I mean, people are for it, man. They really enjoy it, and it's something that I've never really gotten interested in. And like, I understand, like you said, if it was like a blow off where like Seth and Marek, when they did AAW and they had their blow off with the no rope barbed wire match, um, it can make sense and you can really have it like actually mean something more. But it is what it is. It's not my cup of tea, like you said too. But sometimes it works and it sells a lot of tickets. So
Yeah, I'm glad to see we're on the same page. I always felt like, man, the less beaten up I need to do for no reason. I was offered a barbed wire match when I was very young, and I said, "How much does that pay?" Well, it's going to pay a lot, kid. We're going to give you $25. It's not going to cover the stitches I'm going to need, So I respectfully stepped out. So, is that Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, one of your favorite matches of all time?
yeah, I'd say so. It's just so innovative. Like that springboard rope spot that they have is just still unbelievable to this day when you watch, and just how perfect everything went for it is just unbelievable. But what other ones that are just really stick out to me? Like the first WrestleMania I watched live between HBK and Steve Austin, when Steve Austin won the title the first time. That's always one that sticks out to me because it was like my first like WrestleMania live that I was watching, so that was always cool. What other ones that really stuck out to me? I was a big fan of Seth and Brock from SummerSlam when everyone was just booing Seth out the building, just booing him. And then for him to change everyone's opinion of him and like they were just rooting for him on to win the title, like that's just so hard to do. So hard to do. And, being able to learn from him is just huge. So like seeing that match, that's always one that stuck with me as well. I'm sure there's plenty others. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but
No, you're right about Seth, though. I mean, he just is somebody. It's hard. How do I say it? One of the quarterbacks used to say in the NFL, Brett Favre used to say, "Hey, I would watch film, but it took me a while to actually watch film. I was just enjoying the game. I was just kind of like, hey, check it out, but to actually break it down. But when you look at somebody like Seth objectively, and I always say I watch people's feet, when they're training and just see how smooth they are, how quickly they get from, or how few steps they take from transitioning from one move to another. And he's awesome. I mean, he's great at that. I mean, and if you can throw out, everybody, I have a lot of fans. I'm sure you do too on Facebook and social media talking about stuff. And I just can't stand Roman Reigns. And it's always so fascinating to me as two guys like you and I in the business look at it in such a different way. And I can remember doing the crossover from where I was like them going, and then going over and just wrestling training just opens up your mind. Do you remember that feeling, or am I the only one that?
Oh no, it's 100%. Like, you just have a whole different outlook once, like, you're like even going through training and like you start watching matches in a completely different way. It's remarkable. And like you can tell the littlest of things in a match that the general fan would not see. No, I 100% agree with you on that for sure.
I think I was there with Eddie Sharkey for maybe a week before I felt like the movie was in black and white, The Wizard of Oz, when I opened the door and all of a sudden everything's in color. It was just boom, when everything just kind of clicks, because it's awesome. And speaking of, we talked about the Eddie Guerrero Rey Mysterio match, holding up today, some of their stuff that's still impressive. I remember when it was tape trading time, you were probably in diapers yet, but one of my first things was going on eBay and getting a hold of the Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask. And from late 70s to early 80s, that series of 7 matches, and going, man, I was really impressed with it then, but it still holds up today, which is crazy with the way everything moves and stuff. So let's talk about Warrior Wrestling here. I'm rambling. We I got to see you at Warrior Wrestling this summer. Was that your first time going over there for Warrior?
Yep, I did 2 of the shows, but yeah, it's the first time I've been at Warrior.
And that's pretty cool. You're pretty close right there.
Yeah.
We call it the lockdown sessions. I'll jump back into Warrior here in a second. But obviously, the end of February and March, all of a sudden the world, we entered into a whole new realm of this lockdown, this pandemic. What did you do? When was your final match before all of a sudden the world went crazy? Do you remember the date roughly?
So I think my final match, it was in March. I think it was against Zicky Dice, if I'm not mistaken. And it was for this company called SCW Pro. And I had actually been flown out to do a tryout for WWE the week that the world stopped. So I was in Orlando as everything was going on, and then they had to send us back. So that was technically the last thing I had done. But the last match I had was with Zicky Dice, if I'm not mistaken.
What if you, and anything I ask, if you can't say it, just let me know you can't say it. But what did the WWE tell you guys? I mean, just, hey, we got to shut her down? And
yeah, that was pretty much it. Because, I mean, they had SmackDown, I think, got announced to go to the Performance Center. And I was texting Seth at the time, and I was like, man, like there's no way this is happening, because like we're supposed to do everything at the Performance Center. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like it's probably going to get canceled. So I mean, they pulled us in and did about as professionally as you could possibly do. And they said, yeah, unfortunately, we're going to have to postpone it till a later time because we just don't have the resources, and we don't want to sell you short because of the whole situation going on.
I think that SmackDown was supposed to be in Detroit that night, if I
think so too. Yeah.
Mistaken. So do they? Since then, have you guys gotten a reschedule, or not so much, huh?
I've talked to them a couple times. We'll see. They said I'm still very high priority, so I think they're still just trying to figure everything out. But we'll see. So when you guys get
sent back home from Orlando, what do you do? How do you keep busy during this crazy time? How to keep yourself connected in the wrestling world, I mean, did you still have access to gyms and the ring and stuff in Iowa?
Yeah, I was fortunate because since I'm an employee for staff, I could still use like the fitness area and everything, and like I could get in the ring if I wanted to and whatnot. So I was very, very fortunate, uh, especially to like keep my mind off of everything. Because like honestly, I was pretty distraught because I was like, man, like I've had this opportunity and like I've just been trying to get there and like to do this, and then it's just taken right away, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's just not meant to be. So thankfully, I was able to not just be locked down in my room, and I could like go out and kind of live a normal lifestyle ish. But yeah, thankfully I was able to use the gym and do what I normally did in that aspect.
That's what I like about this when I start talking to people. It's the people like you, like Garrison Creed, the guys that said, all right, well, there's a couple things I can do here. I can fold up my tent and cry. Um, I can just keep pounding, or I could come out of this stronger than when I went into it and just kind of hit the gym and everything. So what was your first match back? Warrior Wrestling? Were you at the Friday Night Light show on August 7th?
No, my first match back was against Benjamin Carter for SCW Pro, and it was about as hot as it could possibly be. We were outside, and I can't tell you, like we were both so dead after the match, so incredibly dead. we I got back actually after the match was over, and he was literally laying on the ground just dead because it was so hot. I just good. It was a fun time. Don't get me wrong, but man, to go out there, we went for like 16, 17 minutes and just gave it all we could, and we were both just dead. So
I was going to say, seeing both of you guys work before, I can't imagine that you guys were taking it easy. What time of year was that? Was that prior to August?
I think it was August.
Okay.
Or like July. No, I think it was July, maybe. I can't remember the date exactly. It's July or August, one of the two.
All right, I just forgave you for not knowing dates and stuff at the beginning, and then I start asking you dates, questions and stuff. Well, yeah, Carter, one of my favorite and I know everybody's going to talk about him being on AEW Dark, which is awesome, and I love it. But watching him and Cage at the Warrior Wrestling, one of the Stadium Series, I think the first one, I think Cage was supposed to take on Alex Zane. But man, was I impressed with the way those two worked together.
It flowed just perfectly. They really did. I mean, they had a great dynamic together because, Ben just moves so fast and he's very agile and like very evasive with everything. And Cage just being as strong and like brutal as he possibly is. It's just magic together. They really, really worked super well. And I mean, like I watched it and I was a huge fan of it because it just moved perfectly together. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where, Zane was going to come out and then Carter. So it wasn't one of those ones that I had put like, and I don't know why I ever do this, but mentally I wasn't thinking, well, and I think that's good. Mentally I wasn't thinking, man, I can't wait for this match. I was like, this is going to be epic. I love that better than when I think something's going to be epic and then my expectations are up here and it doesn't deliver. But that one where I'm like, all right, let's check this one out. And then I was like, holy shit. They looked so good together.
Yeah, they really did.
And then that's my next question. So you're out there. It's kind of strange to me. And, of course, we're talking about crossing over into this bubble of pro wrestling in and out. That, there's guys like you, Benjamin Carter, and stuff out there that the world hadn't heard of yet. But now you're at the Performance Center before the pandemic. Carter's getting out on AEW Dark. Since I started with Wrestling Travel, we bring fans all over to WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom. You come with us, you get your flight, you get your hotel, your ticket, you just get to chill out and watch wrestling. Now, a lot of those fans are really fans of the big things that are on TV. Since I've come in, I've been like, we gotta support and get out there and watch these independent wrestlers and independent wrestling organizations. What does the average, I mean, I know in my head, but to you, the average fan that might go, hey, I'd rather go watch WWE or AEW, and I'm always like, great, sit in the stands, but what are they missing out when they don't attend an independent wrestling show like Warrior Wrestling?
Just how personal you can get, like, and like how close you can get with everything, and just how interactive. Obviously, it's a little different now because of the pandemic and everything, but even still, just if you watch some of the matches from the Stadium Series with where it was like Warhorse and Janela, just using that whole environment and like the crowd being right there and like seeing every little thing, you know, like you get an up close personal view of two like top class guys too going at it, where you're not necessarily going to see that at the higher level of like WWE, AEW and everything. And you just see these two guys going at it and performing at a top notch level is just really cool, I think, especially when you've seen both of them guys on TV, or even what was the other one that was crazy? Was it Janela again? I think it was Janela and
Robert Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing everything with the clown and whatnot. And it was just madness. But like you see all of that you wouldn't see up close and personal at like a bigger event. So I think those two are perfect examples of something like that.
Janela's a guy I've seen on TV, just, you know, I don't want to paint myself in the corner here. Hadn't watched a whole lot of him, but it's so different from what I've seen on TV. Then I watched him on August 7th against Joey Janela and Jake something. And I'm kind of going off of TV, and I'm like, all right, let's just kind of see what happens. And I'm like, holy shit, Janela can bring it. And I put out a tweet, like only for my own sanity to go, I was sleeping on the guy. I was kind of going by what I saw on TV, and then the general, he's not that great. And then watching him that next time against Warhorse and then against Robert Anthony, like practically tweeted an apology to Janela for not paying more attention to him, because the guy can bring it. And I think that's a difference too between the big events, and now you go to an indie event where you got a lot more say into what you're doing in your match.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I was a real big fan of the Janela Warhorse spot, where I think Janela carried him all the way out, like into the end zone, and did like a DVD or whatever, sprinted all the way back to the ring and was waiting for the count out. And then Warhorse just slowly trying to get back into the ring, gets in, and then he kicks him, gets the 1-2 huge kick out. Like that was money. Like that was so good. And it's just, I feel like Janela had a lot of say in that too. And it was so well done. And like, I became more of a fan, and I had seen like a few, like a good amount of his stuff beforehand too. But like I became more of a fan and just thought he has such a great, intelligent mind for like certain aspects of that. Like where you're just reaching out and doing something completely different. That's still fairly simple too. You know what I mean? But it was, I became more of a fan too, just seeing how much he could think outside the box.
You and I are on like such a similar wavelength. It's scary. We think about the same. Were you at that match, the Warhorse and Janela match? Were you at the Warrior Live that time?
Yeah, I was. I think I did a pre-show match. I think. Yeah.
Okay, I knew one of them you did, but that one live. Danny, my colleague in Manchester in England, is live blogging Warrior Wrestling because we were a sponsor. And even he messages me during that show when they came out and attacked Janela under the hoods. He goes, bro, I'm streaming this, and it's so epic that the rain just started as they were beating the hell out of Janela, and then it kind of stopped. He goes, it looked so sick on Fight TV. And I'm like, dude, you should have seen it here. It was awesome. But what a great thing. And then I think also going to independent wrestling, Travis Titan, if I'm going to boo you, you're going to hear me. And you may interact with me in the ring. I love putting over the independent wrestling. Now, what have you done now since the Stadium Series wrapped up? where have you been wrestling? Did you end up going out to the Collective at all?
No, I didn't go to the Collective, but I wrestled for Black Label Pro, the Turbo Graps event. I wrestled EC3 at that event. And then I wrestled Hakeem Zayn for AAW that Thursday before for the AAW Heritage Championship. So those are the two latest things that I've done.
What do you have coming up in the future that you can let us know?
I have AAW on the 29th of October, and I think there's another event for AAW on the 12th. I might have some things coming up with a company out west. I just got to get some like footage sent their way, and I think something's going to happen that way. I think Black Label Pro might also be a possibility for November 21st, I believe, for Slamilton. Should be coming up as well.
Kind of cool that wrestling is during this pandemic. Like I didn't really care for the cinematic matches, but we are one of the only events that kept pushing it through this entire pandemic. Now, my big question, since we're from the UK, is I know it's probably not. You have a very young career, but have you wrestled in the UK or overseas yet?
I have not. Unfortunately. I really want to, but fortunately have not yet.
We will stay in touch and see if we can once the world gets to normal. Can't throw you out a few emails or something. So I want to be very respectful of your time. So just what I wanted to know for the last question here is, obviously we talked about Twitter and social media, but as a fan, where can we follow you? Travis Titan merchandise. Do you have a merch store? Just plug away and let us all know how we can follow the career of Travis Titan.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I think it's I can't remember which one's which. It's either the Travis Titan or the real Travis Titan. And it's the vice versa for Twitter. It's either the Travis Titan or the real Travis Titan. It's both of those. I don't know which one's which. I can't remember. I always forget. I don't have any like merchandise that's like online or anything. If people want a shirt, I do have a Fear the Arrow t-shirt that if they personally DM me, I can get stuff sent out that way and figure it out. I personally haven't really ever been huge on merch. It's more about just like the opportunity of getting out there. And I know fans do want to get it, and I should be more apparent of actually doing it, but I haven't. So,
you know what's cool though is before too long, they're not going to be able to DM a guy like you for merch. So do it while you can before he signs on to the next level. Travis
I appreciate
Titan,
that.
we are honored that we got a chance to talk with you. Hopefully we'll do it again here. I always like doing a part 2 on these lockdown sessions because we can get out the beginnings and how you started and actually get real and stuff. But I end up talking on these things for like an hour because once I start talking wrestling, I can't stop, even though sometimes I'm like, hey, we want to watch a football game. But no, honestly, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no, man. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. It seemed like the conversation flowed really well. It was super simple, super fun. So I appreciate it. And thank you for having me.